You look sun-kissed. I can tell you got very nice color to you here. You look warm. Like you just spent a very nice, like what was it, week? 9 days?
7 days.
7 days. So you spent a nice week in some tropical weather. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? Where were you? What'd you do? All that good stuff.
So on Wednesday of last week, it was June 28th. Emma and I went down to the Dominican Republic, and we were down there for 7 days. It was absolutely beautiful. I think it only rained on us once, which is surprising.
Isn't it like is it raining season or rainy season?
I don't think so. I think that's. Oh, you know what? I don't. You know, to be honest, I don't know. But I do remember that the last time there was a lot of seaweed. So something going into this time, we were both saying, all right, well, as long as we have good weather and no seaweed. So
the seaweed grosses you out?
No, but I mean, I'm talking like the time that we went, 2021, that was early June. So they have a little part of the ocean that has buoys around it. It's almost like a semicircle, right? And that's where you're able to swim. There was 1 or 2 days, and this is not an exaggeration, where you cannot see the water at all. It was just all seaweed.
So like, was it like the time in the shore where like we've had situations where they have like fucking bulldozers, and on the beach on the shore? You would
think so. A lot of resorts down there do have that, but the resort that we went to, Majestic Mirage, which is, I can't say enough positive things about it. They do not have that. So that was something that we were a little bit nervous about. We were actually, something that we were doing, Emma was doing it. Shout out Emma. Something that she was doing was she would go on Instagram. It's like smart. That's why I'm like, she in a second life or in a previous life, she was an FBI agent. Because little things that you could kind of gather up and dig up some information, she finds a way to. So what she did was she would go on Instagram, click the resort, go on the location,
and then
see all the recent pictures.
That's smart.
And kind of be monitoring it.
That is fucking smart.
Going into, we're like, all right, it's looking pretty good as far as the seaweed. Very little seaweed. Day 1 was decent. The rest of the days was absolutely perfect.
So no seaweed, good weather.
No seaweed, great weather. And there's a weird thing that I have in my head, and I remember as a child when we'd go down the Jersey Shore. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's a little strange where anytime that we leave, for whatever reason, I'm sure in my mind it's a little bit more exaggerated, but I felt like every time that we left the Jersey Shore, it was raining. And that was kind of like the appropriate cap, the appropriate lid on the vacation, being like, okay, well, you're leaving when it's not the greatest weather, so you know what?
It's time to go.
It's time to go. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, it's Mother Nature's way of saying,
get the fuck out.
Time here, now to go back home. So it was a beautiful day. We woke up our last day. And I'm like, oh, Emma, it's beautiful. And she's like, yeah, isn't this great? I'm like, no, we're leaving it. So it was like a movie. So we were walking down the terminal, and we were inside the entire time. Not really like monitoring the weather.
Yeah.
Brand new airport.
Really?
I asked the guy, a little side note, I asked the guy, oh, wow, this is like absolutely magnificent, but you could see a little electrical wiring like hanging out at some points, and it smelled brand new, like fresh
like contractor fucking, yeah.
And they still had the construction site outside, so they were making some adjustments. And I'm like, all right, this is definitely no more than a year old. And it wasn't there the last time we went. So I asked the guy, oh, how long has this been open? And he went like this. I'm like, oh, 5 months. Okay. He goes, no, days.
5 days that the airport's been open?
5 days it was open.
Bro, you better hope those fucking employees haven't been working for 5 days on the job first time. Air traffic control.
That's when I got a little nervous. I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, this is a new part where they're going to be taking off and landing. So,
yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
But, so, yeah, little side note there. But as we're leaving and we're going down tarmac, right? That's the word?
Yeah, I think the tarmac.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I always screw up that word. So we're going down the tarmac, and we look out, and it is pouring, absolutely pouring.
Over the resort, like, area?
Resort, because then we flew over the resort, and it was gray skies all around the DR. And I was like, that is the Lord, or that is Mother Nature's way of saying, Thomas and Emma, you guys had a fantastic trip, but it's your time to now go back.
Yep. So it's like a bookend, like a perfect ending to it. Like
absolutely. Because like if you think about it, like there's really not much. The whole point of the resort is the relaxation, being outside. I mean, we spent the entire. Oh my gosh, we spent the entire time by the beach, a couple drinks in our hands.
Like, yeah, so I saw that the beach. Like you were mentioning, you'd mentioned seaweed before, and Emma posted a couple stories. You posted a couple stories, and I never saw seaweed. So I was like, all right, well, at least I know that you know, you talking about the seaweed. I know that didn't really take place. The weather also, like, I get very hot very easily, as you saw setting this up. How fucking hot was it while you were there? Our drinks are here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much. Wow, I feel like I'm still on vacation.
A little bit strong.
Fruit in it, so you have to stir it up.
Oh, wow.
Well, taste it to see if you want more mixer.
Dude, that smell. Okay.
I hate it.
Yep. Well, you're making it, so it's gonna be fucking
Good
alcoholic
with me.
as fuck.
Good with me. It's going to make for a very interesting podcast, so I'm
Yeah, you know what?
really
That's
open up
actually-
today.
That's not bad. That's
I'm
not
going to put
bad.
my drink not near the expensive things. Put it right there.
Is it on top of the air filter? As long as that doesn't knock.
No, but it's
because
secure.
that's a
So long as Diva
it's
doesn't
electric.
erase the air filter.
You seen those memes online where it's like a fucking guy gets hit by a car and then the car is like Fort Chevy Tahoe, like
No, I haven't.
like the college.
Is
It's
it,
mad
is
funny.
it with the British accent?
No, it's like
Oh,
it's
okay.
like the like the college introductions. I think I have
Oh,
fucking
yes,
cat hair
yes,
in my
yes.
mouth.
It's kind of like the Key and Peele skit.
Yeah.
where
It's like Chevy Tahoe 2004 Tacoma State, like some
Yeah.
shit, like I don't know.
Florida, University of Florida.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
like that, like
Okay.
that. So that type of thing. I've seen those all online recently. It's like a new like trend in meme culture, I guess, and it's so fucking it's so funny every
Gotta love
time.
meme culture. One thing about meme culture is when it first started out, if you look back 10 years or even go as far as 5-6 years ago, you look at the memes, the meme quality, you look back at things that were considered funny by the masses, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. This is not funny at all.
Yeah, it's changed.
It is on an exponential just rate, and the way that it changes each day, it's very hard to
Well,
keep tabs on.
first of all, I would agree, and I would also say that if you go back and somehow condense or compile all of the memes ever made, you can kind of, I think it's like you can plot out like major historical / societal events that took place based off of these memes that came out during this time.
Oh, absolutely.
Like big headlines, news headlines. For example, like, you know the Titan submersible that just happened?
Of course. Oh my gosh.
You saw the
field day.
the first fucking day. The first day, these people are like, me swimming down there when I find out the billionaires. Like,
Ice.
yeah,
I saw one. It was like me when I found out Ice Spice was in the submarine. It's just some guy doing a nosedive. And
yeah,
just
into
swimming,
the thing and
swimming
trying to
deep.
get them. I'm telling you, like,
Insane.
shit's fucking hilarious. Like, people, the internet always wins. It stays winning, of course. And the internet knows no bounds in terms
absolutely.
of, like, there's no such thing as out of pocket.
No,
These
we have
people
a
just be going after jugulars and shit.
very insensitive generation.
I kind of... Isn't
better,
that
for
weird,
worse.
though? Insensitive in the internet and meme culture, but then hypersensitive in person, politically, all that stuff. Well,
I would know. I would definitely agree with that. With certain topics, it's weird. I mean, I guess it has to do with what I think is every historical event or anything that happens that's negative kind of has like that period where it's like, okay, we're not going to joke around. In the submarine case, it might have been 2 or 3 minutes because people just hopped right on the bandwagon with the jokes.
yeah.
But there's an expiration date, and then
Second that
it's
happens.
the snowball effect. And then after that, it's just it's fair game.
What do you
So
think
it's
about
weird.
what do you think about 9/11 with that? I still feel like jokes about 9/11 is like it's not really like I guess like
They're very difficult jokes to
to pull
execute.
off, yeah.
Very difficult.
Which is weird because it's been I mean, you're talking about the expiration date, right? Like once that moment of like hush hush, don't make jokes about it, which I get because it's like, you know, showing respect or whatever. Once it expires, then the lid's off, people go crazy. But 9/11 is like one of those things. I guess it's just such a severe atrocity that was committed to like, you know, the US and
very
especially
regional
people-
too.
yeah,
Super
like people from
regional.
the East Coast, Northeast, I don't really see a lot of memes about that. Maybe fucking
No.
Floridians or people in Texas that are like, I don't get what the big deal is or
Well,
something.
you see it on sports Twitter, and this is something that I've seen often where it's a terrible meme, but you'll have fans from opposing teams that are non-New York teams, and it'll have, let's say, for example, the Yankee logo. So the Yankees, one team that I see it often with is the Cleveland Guardians, the once Cleveland Indians. What their fan base does is they put the Yankee logo on the Twin Towers, right? And then they put, let's say if there was a player, I don't know,
like one of the opposing
Opposing
the Cleveland
players,
like good player.
yeah, like Ramirez. There's a
As
guy
the-
Ramirez on their team that's one of the best players in baseball. So they would put his face then on
As
the
the
on the
airplane?
plane,
Yeah.
right? So like, and that's something that receives quote unquote, that tweet will get ratioed, right?
What do you mean
but I
that'll
know
get ratioed?
ratioed meaning that more people reply back to that tweet than actually like it. So that's kind of like a sign, like probably wasn't the best tweet.
Oh,
So more
like,
people see it and are actually taking the time to then reply on
yeah.
it. Usually the only time that that's acceptable is if someone poses a question. Obviously, then that warrants a response.
Okay.
But when it's actual content, that's usually a sign that's probably not the best meme.
It wasn't tasteful.
So to kind of answer your question, I think it's very regional. I think it's also very age based too. You don't realize it, but I'm a teacher for everyone that does not know. You don't realize it, but for example, I taught juniors and seniors this year.
Mm-hmm.
They were born in, do some quick, 2005 and 2006. So it's 5 years after that. Their first memory was probably 2010, 2011. So you're talking about like a full decade that has gone by where
They don't know what the fuck happened.
yeah, right. They didn't live through it, and obviously,
I mean, we were alive, but I don't remember shit about. Like, I don't. I remember my dad coming home, no joke, like with 2 bags of rice,
wow.
because he was one of the last cars that came over the bridge, and he hit up ShopRite before coming back, and he was like, because he, I mean, obviously, what was the headlines at the time? We don't have Snapchat. There was no fucking
No,
quick. There was no. I mean, maybe Twitter was around. I don't think so.
no, 2001. Maybe the only thing that was around was
Like MySpace or some shit.
MySpace and then AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
really all it was.
But there's
social
no
media.
like official news outlets covering the story.
No, and
There's no journalism.
The worst
on that.
part about that day was there were so many people making phone calls that you weren't unable to get through. But I remember it. It's funny, like as a kid, especially at 3, I see it with my nieces. I know we're going like all over the place, but I see it with my nieces where Avery's turning 2. Avery and Leah, the cutest little girls on the entire planet. My heart. But Avery's getting to the age now. She's not even 2 yet, where she's able to read the room and see people's expressions and even sometimes look like worried or concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So we were 3, or you were actually 2 and some change. I just turned 3, but we have memories because we were very aware of how those events affected our parents.
Yeah.
In a negative way. So you pick up on that, and it's still fresh in my head. Little picture moments, if that makes sense. I don't remember like the whole day or even like a sequence of events, but one thing that's just fresh in my head is my mom. You know, we weren't in school yet, but my mom going to pick up my siblings in elementary school and her pulling over and trying to get in touch with my father. So like,
Because your dad's a cop,
right? So
in
like
New York City,
yes.
or was a cop in New York City,
and
at
had
the
like,
time.
and that was the thing at that time. You couldn't get in touch with anyone, so they just you had no idea what was going
That's
on. Which
fucking
made it very
terrifying.
scary. So imagine like that's why you have to put yourselves in those people's shoes. And they had no idea. You didn't know if there was gonna be more attacks. You had no idea what was going to go on. You had no idea who was really orchestrated this. I had some suspicion it was terrorists, but who was really the one, controlling the strings. So you got to put yourself in those people's shoes and think about how they were feeling and even how they felt, because it still has lasting effects. So whether it's cancer, people that were down there in the cleanup,
The
or
ash
even
and
people that
asbestos and all that.
unfortunately perished on that day. It has so many lasting impacts that's why I think personally it's probably not the best thing to joke about just yet. But I'm sure if we're sitting here in 2051 and it's 50 years since, it's probably gonna be joked about. Similar like Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is thrown out, and it's we don't remember it. No one remembers.
Yeah, because all those people.
All right,
they're
December
either
7th,
passed or-
1941. Like, who was alive? And if you were alive, you might have been 7, 8 years old. Maybe there were people that were 10 years old that might sort of remember it.
But you weren't affected by it directly because you're not an adult at that point.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably not at this point in your life. So yeah, it's interesting, just like what that territory of what is something that you can and cannot joke about. But there's really no right or wrong answer, I guess.
It's crazy how it's actually insane how like what you were saying before, like with the thoughts going through your head. Your mom, like your father was a cop in New York City and your mom was trying to call. You don't know whether or not your husband is okay in light of a major, what turned out to be terrorist attack in the biggest city, arguably the most important city in the U.S., arguably the most important country.
Absolutely.
Or most powerful country. So it's like, what the fuck's going on? It's just all types of chaos, Like the kingdom is being attacked kind of thing. like downfall of like society as we know it. I mean, it's scary as shit. Like for me, the only thing, like you remember your mom calling your dad, and I don't remember any dialogue that took place. Like my only memory is like my dad, he said, I mean, I'm piecemealing all this afterwards, right? Like when I grew up, I asked him, I think for like a school project that I had in high school or middle school, you had to, I don't know if do you remember this? Like you had to ask your parents their thoughts on 9/11. It might have been a college project, whatever it was an assignment. So I had to go about those conversations. Yeah. Like with a certain level of integrity, like being serious and not like jovial about it. And my dad was kind of just giving his story, and he said that like he was one of the last cars that went across, that they permitted to go across the George Washington Bridge, because you know when that happened, the first thing that they thought is like there's gonna be fucking bridges and tunnels are gonna go down, so we got to shut all those shits down. And my dad was like one of the last cars going across, so he just remembers like emptiness on the oncoming traffic. On the inbound side into Manhattan, nothing. It was just empty like a fucking ghost. And you know, George Washington, there's never a time of day where that shit's empty. Maybe Christmas Eve, or New Year's Eve.
Oh no, I would go into the city for Christmas Eve. No.
Oh, for the tree and stuff.
Never. 3 a.m. Recently, when we went to our flight, there was traffic at 3 a.m.
On George Washington?
Amazon truck, so I can't get mad.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys for always being very quick with your service. But yeah, always traffic. So that must have been, I can't imagine.
It's insane.
The feeling that you have. And I'm sure his foot was probably scraping the bottom surface of the car.
Oh, yeah, trying to just get the fuck home. And then he got to ShopRite, and then he bought 2 giant, like 10-pound bags of rice, because he's like, you don't know, like he didn't know what the fuck was going to happen afterwards. So he wanted to make sure we had some sort of food. You know, Asian people with the rice. You can make...
Anyone. That's a great
It's a staple. Yeah. Actually, I feel like most of the world eats rice. I feel like the only countries that don't really eat rice is like Western European countries.
Exactly.
Like Italy, Germany,
Ireland, Britain. Yeah, they don't really.
Over there, it's more rice. Like bread, wheat.
But I think they're starting to come around. But so it's funny you mentioned the bridges and tunnels. So another thing that they were very concerned about was, so they obviously that you start putting yourselves in the shoes of these people that orchestrated and that carried through these attacks. So the thinking was, okay, well, if you really want to cripple New York City or just any major urban area, right? Think of the money, so Wall Street.
Yep.
But that would probably be more of cyber attacks, but wasn't really much of a thing then. But the big concern was the power grid. So my dad actually was the major Con Edison building in Manhattan, which I don't know the exact percentage, but controlled, I would say, at least half to the majority of the power in New York City. 5 boroughs? Yep. So Damn. He was stationed on top of that roof, and he would, I think, the roof and then eventually go down to the bottom of the building, right? Because you weren't sure where or who would be coming from, but with a Glock. And he was thinking the entire time, okay, I think I'm fine. But at the same time, something does happen.
What a fucking pistol?
A pea shooter, right.
A pistol. These people are throwing this is not a joke, literal airplanes at buildings, right. And you got a pistol. You're like, what am I supposed to do with this?
But that's why that's a turning point in history. Now, I'm sure they have things that we probably are unaware of. They, whether it's...
Air defense system.
Right. Like, they have it covered. Pre and post 9/11 is a completely different world.
Even pilot training, like pilots now, no matter what, they could say they're gonna murder every single cabin crew member, passenger on a plane. The pilots are not permitted to open the cockpit doors during flight, unless they're going out to go to the bathroom or whatever. But like if like some type of hostile takeover, they're like kill everyone on board. Like you can't, because if that plane gets taken over, everyone's gonna die anyways.
Exactly.
And then they're gonna fuck up like countless of other people, just like you saw on 9/11.
Yeah, so, and one thing I'd like to add with that, too, is, so there's a couple things. One, it was always the thing, like, never mentioned it to my dad. Never spoke about it. Something's on the TV, change it. Like, and that's still to this day.
You've never spoken about 9/11 with your dad?
One time, and he got very upset, so it just ended. Very sad story. So I'll give you 2 quick stories. One was there was a fire department precinct near his police precinct, 2 all Upper West Side. And what people did was, again, they didn't know the death toll, but a lot of families or just civilians that felt like they needed to do something was, okay, let's set up a whole long trays of of food for these firemen. So when they come back, they'll have a meal on them. It's been a long day. It's been hell. And it's family members. 4 o'clock goes by, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And you just, the mood drops. And all it is just these empty trays with a bunch of plates, napkins, utensils, and no one's eating them. And he said that point he knew, like, wow, like this is worse than I ever imagined.
Like precincts of firefighters.
Right. And like, it wasn't like one or two guys trickling in, not one person, not one single person. So imagine people that you grew up with, that you worked with, and the firefighting community is a brotherhood, right? Mm-hmm. And not one of those people came back to even share a story. Or another thing is hospital workers, and the hospitals are stocked up, and there was ambulance corps flooding into the city, thinking, okay, like there's gonna be a lot of people that have related injuries, we have to attend to them. Hospitals empty because it was either you survived to tell it and you were okay, or you had nothing that could be treated. So it was a very grim day. But the positive is you really saw how close people were, and people say the New York City was at its greatest from September 12th, 2001 to probably maybe 2002, 2003. Like you saw like the best in people. People just wanted to help. They felt like it was like in their duty to help.
Yeah, because that you it's the Big Apple, and then it's like it doesn't matter race, class, whatever the fuck. Like everyone suffered a loss that day, and it was just like, this is it. Like
it's amazing, and
you don't fuck with New York.
So at that point, bridges and tunnels was only for emergency personnel, right? Firemen, police officers, EMS, right? So what they would do on the FDR Drive, Harlem River Drive, they would have just people upon people from the bridge all the way to downtown lined up right next to the highway and just clapping in the emergency personnel that would drive in, and like bowing, like kissing them, like anything that they needed, they had. So you really do get to see the best in people, unfortunately, in light of times tragedy. Like that.
Yeah.
So, so that's my little piece to that. So I guess to kind of go back to what we said, probably not the best thing to joke about. And that's my opinion, but sure. Everyone obviously is entitled to their opinion. That's the thing about comedy is it's a very tough thing to have an opinion on, because there's so many conflicting opinions, and I'm sure there are comedians that are loved by many and that are hated by, like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is one person that is he's great, and then also he's terrible because he jokes about a lot of touchy subjects. So it's a very gray area, and I think it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, it kind of has to be. That's kind of the nature of the game.
Definitely.
Especially in like, and it just off of like a weird thing with comedy, because I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy. Actually, today or yesterday, Tom Segura, who's like a big comedian, or I'm a fan of his, he just released his new Netflix special. So I watched it today, and I was like, I liked it. It was good. But there's like, I feel like comedy serves a weird societal purpose of like, it's like the balancing. It kind of balances when people get too hypersensitive. Those people like Dave Chappelle, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with everything he jokes about, but the stuff that he jokes about going over the line, over the edge, kind of serves a greater purpose of making people realize, like, all right, there is such a thing as jokes, and like you can't get super, super, super upset about every single fucking joke out there.
It almost works against, I think, the initiative too of, hey, you don't like a comedian? I think the best thing.
Sorry.
Oh, spill.
No. It got stuck. No, the coaster got stuck to the bottom because of water, and then it almost fell.
Leather coasters. I got you a leather coaster. I hope you're using it.
No, it's a fucking
porcelain. The porcelain ones that get stuck.
Jesus.
And that's a weird thing. The best thing is to just boycott it. Just don't listen. Don't even pay attention. Don't give reviews. Don't talk about it. But the more you, especially with big comedians like that, the more you want to meet force with force,
the more people it recruits for the other side.
It works against it.
Yeah, and then it just becomes like a stagnant thing.
Like there are people that probably weren't even a fan of Dave Chappelle for numerous reasons,
And
then heard about this, and we're like, oh, you know what? Well, just in spite of that group of people that are trying to cancel him, I'm going to watch. So it's just a real touchy
It's annoying
subject,
how everything today just becomes fucking political this, political that, political this. I'm
politics.
so sick of fucking politics.
The best way that I actually heard it today, and it's a very common saying. It's like you have an extreme on one side, you have an extreme on the other side. And those are the people that get the majority of the spotlight, the majority of the clicks, the majority of the views. But if you go and you interact with really anyone, and that's why when we went to the Dominican Republic, you interacted with the locals, the Dominicans, you interacted with the people from New York, a lot of people from New Jersey, Northeast, Southeast. So you're talking about like all walks of life. So for example, we sat at an hibachi table. There was a group that was from Appalachia. So West Virginia, you know, like Take Me Home, Country Roads, like that part of
John Denver.
Yep, exactly. So we had that. We obviously from New York. You had people from like the Florida Panhandle. Mm-hmm. So they tend to be a little bit different than the two areas. And then the other region was DC area. So like you're talking about, you know, mostly East Coast, all East Coast. But, you know, did we all agree on everything? Absolutely not. Did we ask about it? No. But we had a phenomenal dinner with one another. And that's just how people are. Most people, they don't care about the walk of life you come from. They don't care about religion, none of that. But unfortunately, what gets the eyeballs is showing each extreme.
Yeah.
And that's terrible because then people that might not be that extreme will then fall to one extreme or the other. So, and that's just all with social media, the news. Everything is just highly politicized and it's terrible. And it doesn't help anyone. There's no person or no side that it helps other than the politicians.
Yeah. I mean, it generates propaganda basically for them. This is the one thing I never get political on this platform, if you could even call it that. I never really make political statements, and this is not a political statement, but there is something I want to get off my chest. If you'll lend me your ear, so you've known me basically my entire not basically. We go back. I mean, I've known you since middle school.
Elementary school, back when I punched you in the face.
Oh yeah, well basketball, which I don't remember that. I'm gonna say the most important years, like years that I actually remember. You know what I'm saying? Like right. the informative years, the ones that really matter into shaping who you are like today. You've known me for my whole life. I would say the town that we live in, I'm obviously not gonna like name certain people or whatever, but it's a primarily white town in the suburbs of New York City. So a blue state, but the suburbs of a blue state. So at least my perception is that people here tend to be a little bit more, I hate to divide it up into left versus right, but a little bit more right-leaning than people that you see in the city itself, right?
Oh, absolutely. Numbers-wise, that is a factual number statement. Tend to be more right-leaning if you want to go with political affiliation, more Republican. Mm-hmm. That is just, you could look at data from past elections or even just party affiliation. That is 100% a fact. So, yeah, definitely.
So I grew up as a minority here, and I would say with respect to everyone else here, or not everyone else, but the majority of like that, you know, political spectrum here, I was more progressive, and I still would consider myself very progressive and like, not progressive. I don't want to use that, but I also don't want to say liberal, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like liberal.
Left of the center.
Yeah. Left of the center. And then, but when I went into college, liberal arts fucking school, I met certain people that I'm like, oh, like at first I was like, oh, this is all people who like think like me. Great. But then there were certain moments where I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not the type of person to be like, I don't fucking agree with that, you're wrong, whatever, and be like trying to start an argument, because that's not the point of being a human being. You don't really do that. Whereas nowadays it's like, it's almost like when you enter a room, it's like, all right, what's everyone's political thoughts? Do we all align here? All right, now we could be friends. Instead of being like, hey, what's your name? Let's see if we get along. Oh, you don't agree with? All right, whatever. Point of what I'm trying to say is like, on that note, I've realized that kind of having or knowing people from this town, having certain relationships, and then going into the city, making certain relationships there, you don't have to fucking agree with someone on everything in order to be friends with them. And you damn sure should not condemn a relationship before it even gets an opportunity to, you know, become something meaningful just because they lie on a certain political spectrum compared to you.
Exactly. Listen,
I think that's so stupid.
We are, and I mean this, people will say I'm biased. I don't care. Our friend group I'm sure it has been mentioned before on the podcast, is the gold standard of how people should interact.
I think so too.
I mean, let me go down the list. Albanian, Christian, Muslim, believe Hindu,
Yep.
Catholic, Chinese, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Irish, Korean, Indian, Colombian. I mean, just
It's the UN.
down the list.
Yeah.
But different, definitely.
And different perspectives on different issues and
Political,
stuff like that.
Don't see eye to eye. But to be honest with you,
It doesn't fucking matter.
no, and it's funny. It's something that I think we've embraced. If anything, like it's awesome.
Yeah.
like it's so cool.
And I learn from opposing views on certain things where I'm like, you know what, they have a point. And then it's like a balancing act. It like informs the way you are going forward. Like, you know what? I feel like it's a dangerous camp to just be like, I can only be friends with people who agree with me on everything politically. That's all I'm trying to say. And it's stupid to like just completely cut off other people because of the fact that you're wait, hold on, you're not for this? Oh, fuck you. Like you're a horrible person. I think that's just a stupid thing to do.
Closed-minded.
It is
if
closed-minded.
you think about like whatever meaning in life, everyone has a different meaning, purpose. But in reality, it's like, all right, we're all here. We gotta all find a way to like work together.
Yeah.
As corny as it sounds, like
100%.
there's no point of butting heads. But
You could acknowledge the differences and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean you have to fight over these things 24/7. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just my
99%, 99.9% of people all agree with the same outcomes, I think. But that it's just the way that we
get there is where it gets
it's
tricky.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
But that's all it is. It's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you want to talk about that? I know we rattled off some of the countries there, and was that something that you want to speak about?
Yeah. So actually, this is I wanted to say this. I was actually very touched by something I was very touched by what you did / said. A lot of the times, like, so obviously I've been doing this podcast. This is going to be episode 54, I believe. So 54 total episodes. I feel like I don't think that's that many, but whatever.
That's a lot of time, a lot of preparation. Does not seem like it, but 54 is amazing, and we're gonna throw a big party for 100.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. So like it's been 54 episodes, and all of the episodes that I've done, I've always gone to someone to ask them to be on the show and to talk about certain things. You were the first person to be like, hey, like, you know, like I'm down to go on the podcast and talk about X. And I was like, fuck it. Because I always tell you guys it's an open invite, but you actually took the like that and you ran with it and then told me this is like something I'd like to talk about with you. And I was like, fuck yeah, that's dope. So the thing, I want to get into like baseball and all this shit later, but this is like the main meat and potatoes of this episode. And it's a loaded
Meat
topic,
and
I would
potatoes,
say.
Pun intended.
Oh yeah, holy shit, pun intended. There you go. It's about kind of being multiracial, of mixed, I guess, origins, ethnically, culturally, all that good stuff, and like how that has informed you in becoming the person that you are today, and you know, all that stuff. Because you are, if you break it down in percentages, I think you're 75% Latin and 25% Caucasian or Irish. Right?
Yep.
And then that 75% Latin, that's where I always trip up. I think there's like a splash of Cuban in there, mostly
crazy.
Dominican and Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
right?
like the recent generations, I just say Dominican, Puerto Rican, but geez, if you break it down, I mean,
Like, if you go way
there's,
back.
like Spanish, there's French, there's Cuban. It gets all messy. But yeah, mostly what I say is I'm 50% because both my grandparents on my mother's side are Dominican, and on my father's side are called West Side Story. You have the Irish and you have the Puerto Rican.
Okay, so perfect. Yeah.
So a little bit of everything.
So 50% Dominican, 25, a quarter Puerto Rican, and a quarter Irish.
Yeah.
And I'm half. I mean, for the you just again, like if you really trace it back, like way back in the day, it breaks up into you get lost. But I'm gonna just say I'm half Colombian, half Chinese. And this is a loaded question. You brought this to my, so like I guess I'll just start by asking, like, have you had any like identity, not issues, but like I guess maybe crisis, like an identity crisis because of your mixed upbringing and all these different cultures that are present in your home?
Absolutely.
And like how you interact with people out, you know.
It's funny because it's like growing up here in an Irish town, I kind of naturally just assumed my Irish culture more than really anything else. And I would probably say about like 6-7 years ago, I'm like, hey, wait, you know what? Like, hey, they talk Spanish in my house. Like, that's something I should be proud of. And like my grandparents from the Dominican Republic. Oh, let me learn a little bit more about their culture. Oh, my grandmother and my great aunt, they're Puerto Rican. So I would say like naturally just growing up here, I've assumed more of but really not though, to be honest with you. Like at a young age, I was just like, oh, I'm American, America. But then as you get older, it's like, okay, like where did I actually come from? Where did my grandparents come from? So I would say that being that I'm very mixed, it's been tough to say like, oh, I'm one thing or I'm this, I'm that. So I just naturally gravitate towards like, oh, like I live in the United States, I am an American citizen. But now as I'm getting older, I am very interested in like the other countries, the other cultures. Been working on my Spanish. I'm very proud of how my Spanish has been improving. All it has to do is just conversing with my grandparents more often. And then the other thing is working in the Bronx.
There's a lot
heavy
of
Dominican, heavy Puerto Rican, so a lot of Latin over there.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, like an identity crisis, absolutely. Because like I'll tell, oh, I'm half Dominican. Oh, you're not Dominican. Oh, do you know Spanish? Ah, a little. Nah, you're not Dominican.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a quarter Puerto Rican. Oh, that's nothing. You're not Puerto Rican. Quarter Irish. Oh, come on. You're not even Irish. You just have
It's
an
like
Irish
every
last
way
name.
you fucking
Yeah,
turn.
you just get like
you
pushed
gotta
back.
say-
So that's
yeah.
why I'm like, all right. I just tell people I'm from the United States, and on my mother's side, I'm second generation. On my father's side, I am, depending on where you go, third/fourth generation.
Gotcha.
So, I think this is going to lead to something that maybe you could share. Being that my grandparents immigrated to this country, or my great grandparents immigrated anywhere from I think like 1930s to right around like the early 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
They were very quick to assimilate, and for better or for worse, right? That's a whole different story. Naturally, when you assimilate, you're like, okay, I'm American. So the next generation comes, my parents. Same thing, like, yeah, they knew, my mom knew she was of Dominican descent. My father knew that he was of Irish and Puerto Rican descent. Proud, but very much assimilated.
You're American.
So next generation, like, yeah, I knew I was those things, but naturally, based on when my family came to this country, assimilation was more of a, like the expectation. Hey, you come here, you learn English, be proud of where you came from. But at the end of the day, you are an American, and you should be proud to be an American.
I mean, this is post, you said 1930s, 1940s, right?
Yeah, so we're talking about post World War II.
The height of,
like,
some would argue, like America's like influence and power
Korean
globally.
War, right? So like nationalism at that point was significantly higher than it is now.
Yeah.
So naturally, people tend to assimilate, and that's.
I mean, you have to for survival almost.
And that's a
when
big
you come here.
right, and that's a big reason why I think that. Let's say if my family's immigration was pushed back to, I don't know, like the late 1990s or early 2000s, right? That third generation of children would probably speak in Spanish, I would think. Because now, and I don't know if you have a different opinion. Oops, excuse me, I just hit the mic.
No, you're good.
Because your family immigrated on your mother's side probably in the 1980s.
80s, yeah.
80s, and your father's side around the same time?
So my dad, they were both born in 71, and my dad immigrated here when he was, I think, 12, and same thing with my mom. So what does that put them at? 1983. So 1983 is when they both sides of literally both sides of my paternal and maternal side came to the country, to this country. I feel like 80s U.S., especially New York City, I mean, that's like a fucking place to move. 80s New York City was not the safest.
Oh, no.
But melting pot.
Absolutely.
So I feel like the pressure that you're talking about to assimilate, not as high.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and also at that point, the U.S. had gone like through, I mean, this is obvious. It'd been like years prior, like a decade or plus prior, through its like biggest, I guess, like social friction point of like people who agreed versus disagreed with going to Vietnam.
Yep.
So that was like, everything else before is like hoorah, patriotism, fuck it, we're going to go wherever, like whatever. But then Vietnam is the first sticking point where people kind of disagree with, mindset abroad, whatever it is. And after that, you kind of see like, I get what you're saying, where there's less of a pressure to assimilate. And I guess the effect that has is less, it kind of, I don't want to say waters down, more so like there's not as big of a pressure to abandon your culture, and you can embrace it a little more strongly. Like
Right.
people who are walking around in the streets, obviously, like my grandparents were told, like, you're in America, speak English. Every fucking immigrant gets that, no matter what generation. People still who immigrate today, they're still gonna get it. But at that point in the 80s, way more Chinese people, especially in New York. I mean, it's like, big melting pot. So you don't need to for survival as much. Like your grandparents that moved here in the 40s, I mean, there's definitely Latins, but how many?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Dominican immigration really spiked up in the 1990s, 2000s, and even right now. Oh my God, yeah, back in the 1960s, it was primarily Puerto Rican immigration. And kind of what you're talking about is now you have like these enclaves, these like ethnic enclaves where you go to Flushing, Queens, and you can walk around and you will not hear English at all.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Miami, all fucking Cubans, like Caribbean Latin.
Right.
In Miami.
They have a little spot in Miami, Little Haiti. You could go anywhere in New York City and you find that ethnic enclave. So naturally, it's a lot easier for you to hold on to your roots and then pass it to the next generation. Whereas when you came in the time that I mentioned, 40s, 50s, and 60s, were there enclaves? Absolutely. But the expectation again was, hey, you come here, you start to act like what you're expected to act like. That being said, though, my grandparents both struggle with English. They moved to Spanish Harlem, and they worked more like lower class jobs. And at that time, it was mostly Puerto Ricans, some Dominicans, so mostly Spanish speakers. So they were still conversing in their first language.
I mean, even still today, that's still the case.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there is like, I guess, comfort in when you come here. There are like, pockets, but I mean, I can't even imagine the shit that your grandparents went through with, just having that pressure to assimilate. And the fact that having not as many people from the same cultural background as you, like around you, you could see it with me. It heavily informs, like, so my dad, he's Chinese, born in Hong Kong, right? Well, whatever. Born in Hong Kong. Yeah. Like, it's fucking
touchy subject.
Yeah, touchy subject. But born in Hong Kong, Cantonese speaker, moves to Costa Rica when he's like a baby. My aunt and uncle were both born in Costa Rica. So all of them, they can speak Spanish. I think they could survive with their Spanish. But my dad retained it the most because he married a Latin woman. So obviously, like he speaks it with my grandparents, whatever. That's not the point of the story. Point of the story is that when he moved to New York, there's obviously a shit ton of Asian, Chinese, Latin people there. It's that light. Sorry. Can you turn on that light? Because I feel like the lighting right now is god awful. Stand-in producer. Latino, Latin, whatever. It's the same shit.
Latin's a language, brother.
Latin is a dead language.
So.
No, it's also like Latin.
Latin
you say
of Latin
Latin
descent. Okay, this is the great balancing act too for the
younger sister.
Yeah,
everyone.
the younger sister.
She made
yeah.
terrific drinks, so you could correct.
That's not.
how's that going?
Wait, there we go. Forgot that. You don't hear it, but we do. All right. So anyway,
I
sorry.
think you should chug the rest and make another.
Okay, fuck it. You down? God damn. All right, I'm done with this.
The
fucking
porcelain.
toaster. Yeah, this goddamn shit sticks.
Chug it. That is.
Oh, you're nursing that motherfucker.
He was a nursing major, maybe? I don't know.
That's all passion fruit and like ice and stuff.
still
You can make
want
mine
passion
stronger.
fruit?
You can make mine stronger.
Really? Why would you?
Wow.
And then you make yourself a drink too. Picky McGee over here.
You'll have to come back in 5 minutes.
I'll make his.
Yeah. Anyways, point is, what I was trying to say before is like my dad, he moved here, right? But then when we moved to New York, I was born in Queens and I lived in Queens until I was 5. My first language was Spanish.
Oh wow.
Because of my mom. And I mean, like there's so much beauty in this. Older generations, like my dad lived with my when they were married, lived with my mom and then their whole fucking family. Or Latinos now, you can't say whatever. Latinos, you know how Latinos are, Hispanic people are. It's like families, everything. We travel in packs. You know this. So the house, it's not like husband and wife live alone. No, it's husband, wife, the wife's parents,
Yep.
fucking cousins, Eduardo's in the bathroom over there. You got Oscar over here in this guest bedroom.
Well,
like
that's the best part, especially during family functions. Is there'll always be one person. And you're like, I have never seen you.
Yeah,
in my
they come
entire
out
life,
from the
but
fucking
the
woodworks.
woodworks,
Oh,
yep.
I'm like your third, fourth cousin removed from your blah 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 blah.
But
Whatever.
you treat him like
It's
your
like,
first.
oh, hey,
you
what's
treat
up?
him like,
Yeah.
like you know him.
Exactly, yeah. So they lived all in that big house. So my dad spoke Spanish, all that stuff. And then I learned Spanish because of that. Then my second language was Cantonese. And then my third language was English. Wow. We move out of Queens. We come to Pearl River. I no longer have that. And at the same time, incidentally, Kika and Kiko, my Colombian grandparents, they moved to New Jersey, Montville, like right here in Nottingham Courts. That's like right there,
Oh yeah,
right?
of course, yeah, right off Kinderback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yep.
So they're right there. So I have that Spanish. I have that interaction with Spanish speakers on the daily because even though they live there, they're here every fucking day. So because of that, I retain the Spanish language. And because I'm in America and going to school in the U.S., I retain English. Where does my Cantonese go? My grandparents aren't here. That's why I can't fucking speak Cantonese anymore. She had, meaning Kata, who's behind the camera right now, she learned it a little bit, but...
I remember there was one point where I was in Queens, like standing there. My mom was talking to me in Spanish. I would turn, translate it in my head, and then say it in Cantonese to my grandmother, and then vice versa.
This is when we were kids, though, like young.
I have to say, that speaks to your guys' intelligence level, but holy smokes, as a child, I do think about that certain times that you could talk to a 6-year-old and they'll be a pretty decent translator.
Oh yeah, no, kids pick up language like that. That's why it's important to get
sponge. Yeah.
So it's sad, but part of that identity crisis. Now, I guess this kind of ties back into what we're talking about with like identity issues and all that stuff. Is the fact that I would say. So what you were saying before, they're like, you're not really this, you're not really that. And that's annoying as fuck to hear. And because it's like, you tell people, they're like, what are you? Because, like Irish people, I mean, everyone looks a certain way. Irish people will look at you, and then somebody will be like, what are you? What are you? Something, whatever. Sorry. Anyways, I feel like that was pretty spot on.
Pretty, I can't.
No,
I'm not even going to try. You do a better Irish accent than I do.
So they would ask you, like, what are you? And then you say, oh, I'm X, Y, and Z, and Irish. And they're like, oh, you're not really Irish. And it's like, bro, like, I feel like a kinsmanship towards you because we share similar ancestral bloodline. And then now the person that's 100% is telling me that you're not really that.
It's funny. So although out of everyone, I think, I mean, it's probably just a numbers game, but I think Dominicans accept, like, oh, like they're like, oh, like,
Dominicano.
Yeah. All that. And like that's like especially when I went over there, I told people, they're like, oh my god, that is sweet. Like that's all, like they get happy.
Yeah.
Puerto Rican, like it's like, all right, that's cool. There's just a lot of Puerto Ricans here, and like I'm only a quarter. But it's funny, I eat more Puerto Rican food than any of the others.
Really?
Oh, I love Puerto Rican food. Like, okay, so for example, arroz con gandules.
Yeah.
With the rice with the chickpeas. Dominican style is just very plain. It's just the rice and then the gandules. Puerto Rican style, throw on some chorizo, you throw on some chicken in there, throw on some olives.
So it's got more
flavor.
Yeah.
And Puerto Rican food, I grew up on that. It's the best. Mm-hmm. Like pastelitos, pasteles, like all of that. Like I love that, and that's what I was used to. Mm-hmm. So like from a food standpoint, I could identify there. And then I guess like just for like a language part, like the Irish culture, but I didn't know a lot about my Irish side. I had to do a lot of digging. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what counties they came from. You're Irish. Oh, what county? That's always
the fucking first question. Yeah,
I never knew. So you're not Irish. But now like I know where they're from, and my last name. Like if you just look at my name, you're like, oh, okay, like this guy's like Irish.
Yeah.
But the most common thing that I get is that I'm. What do you think it would be? Just
what, like if you look at you?
Appearance. Go ahead. No, I know. Just say it because everyone says it.
Italian.
Yeah, everyone always thinks I'm Italian.
Yeah.
Right, especially when I got a little tan here. I love pizza. Like people, oh yeah, you're Italian or Irish and Italian, right?
And you also have some words that you say very like is it Queens or Bronx? It's a New York accent. New York.
It's from my parents. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like because of that, and a lot of New York is like Italian Americans,
right?
So it's gonna kind of like it's easier to pick up on that.
No,
I could get I mean, same thing with me. Like, what do people always say I am?
You are either Hawaiian or Filipino.
Yeah, it's always one of those two.
And it's crazy.
It's not. Yeah. So sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
So there's a guy at the DR who he asked me, he's like, "Oh, where's your family from?" I was like, "All right, what do you think?" And he said in Spanish, he goes, "The place where Jesus is from." That's what he thought of. He thought I was like Israeli.
Israeli?
Yep. But if you look at my brothers, so my brother John looks like he could be Turkish or like Lebanese or from that area. You'll have to like put a picture like right here.
I could see that if he checks off on that, I'll put a picture.
Yeah, put a picture.
What timestamp is it? Just for editing purposes. Got you.
Okay.
So John
right here.
Yep.
Looks like he could be a little like Middle Eastern, but like we don't look like we're siblings at all. Some people say we do. I don't.
I could see it. I could see. By the way, like I've said this before. There's a very Can I say your last name?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I would say there's a Cardi look. Like all of you, your siblings, you guys look different, but there's like similarities. Something in the fucking eyes. I don't know what it is. You can just tell that you guys are related. Like you and your brother, like John, you don't look obviously. You have lighter hair. He has much darker hair.
Lighter everything. Like just lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
A bleached out version.
He is more. He is darker in hair, skin tone, all that stuff. But there's still like facial structure wise, there's like a similarity.
He has more Caucasian facial features. Like so, if you did like a mesh, like if I took his facial features and put it on me, I would look much more like Caucasian looking, right? And just like, oh, like he's probably Irish. If you took my facial features, the nose, the lip, right, and you put it on, then he'd be like, oh, like this guy's definitely like Hispanic. But he looks like more like Middle Eastern or maybe even like
I could see it.
You know, like Sicilian, like Italian. Like,
so what does Kevin get?
Or even like Armenian. He's gotten before. Kevin gets Greek.
I could fucking see that.
Kevin, right here.
Put him right there.
People think that he's Greek. So my mom grew up in Astoria. Astoria is like
Greek capital,
New York. And she goes, "Oh my God, like old, you know, you would think his name is Stephanopoulos or you know, like something like that. Like he looks more Greek."
Yeah.
My sister Christy.
Yeah, what does she get? She actually to me looks Latin or Latino. Really? No. She looks like a Latino.
I think she looks more. I don't know, actually. People say we look the most alike, but I would say I think she looks. I don't know.
I think with your siblings, it's every other.
Yeah.
So like Christy and you look like more.
And John and Kevin.
Yep, and John and Kevin. Yeah.
My mother, no one knows she's Dominican. No, and she's 100%. No one knows. Oh wow.
What does she get then?
Italian.
Okay.
Everyone thinks she's Italian, and a lot of that is she's loud. She's got the New York accent. Like, oh, she's Italian. My dad.
I can't see Italian with
my
her
dad
either.
My dad looks Irish, but in the summer, like he gets like that. He gets darker than I do, and he has really light eyes and the hair. Like
see, your dad, I could see Italian, not your mom.
Really? Okay.
Because your dad's a little bit more fair skinned, and your dad's eyes are like insane. Yeah. So like that's why like I could see a little bit more Italian.
Yeah.
But your mom, I mean, I don't know. I could be biased because obviously I know like what she is. She's like Dominican, but to me, she looks like resembles a Latina. Your dad definitely does. Like the Irish in him is very like. I mean, the fucking eyes is like a dead giveaway.
Yeah, right. The green eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that's very regional.
Yeah,
very
like,
regional for the most part.
Who outside of white people have colored eyes?
And not even white, just Ireland and Great Britain.
It's like biggest
there's a really good map that shows like eye color and the most common eye color. Every country it's brown. And I think like those are the only two countries where it's either green or blue. Yeah, yeah. So it's very reachable. A lot of Lebanese people have light eyes, or Egyptian.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What the
like
fuck?
more than you'd expect.
That is interesting.
Yeah, but so if I could pivot to you, one thing that I always found interesting is kind of like how we were just talking about Brandon Chung. Oh, I always thought you were just full Chinese. I never even had any inclination like, oh, he's Spanish. But then I remember when I came over here for the first time, and you had the arepa. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love arepa.
You like arepas?
Oh, it's the best. Sancocho. Mm-hmm. By the way,
What?
Dominican sancocho is better, but
You know what? Look, I'm not even gonna
But-
argue on this. My uncle, my Colombian side is gonna kill me for this. Sancocho is one of those things like
You don't
I
like
love.
it?
I like it. I just think it's like okay. So you know, like every grandmother, you never shit on their cooking ever.
course not.
That's a death sentence. Everyone's always gassing the fuck out of my Kika sancocho. It is a delicious sancocho. I'm just saying, out of all the dishes, if I had to pick one for her to make, it's not gonna be a soup.
I agree. It's a bunch of vegetables thrown into
It's
a
like
crock pot.
yuca, yeah, chicken. It's good. It's good.
Corn.
Corn,
Yeah, like a
potato,
whole
yeah,
corn.
like on the fucking cob.
Yeah.
We're not talking about no kernels. No, we're talking about the whole. Got all the starch. Put that shit in there. You got yuca, potato, all that starchy vegetables. You got chicken, and then plantains. Even you throw them in there
absolutely.
too. So it's good, but like, would I take that over like her fucking pork loin? Not a
Nah,
shot.
the pork loin is amazing. And then I remember the one dish you might not even remember.
I do remember. I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Say it.
The spinach cake, or
Oh, yeah.
it's the torta de espinaca.
Torta espinaca.
Yeah, it's like a egg. She takes egg, and then the egg is like the batter, spinach and corn, and then it comes out like little pizza
Oh my
slices.
God.
You would dog
you
that.
would have that just like always on the counter.
She hasn't made that in years. Oh my god. Yeah,
on,
but she used
on
to,
a paper towel.
yeah.
And I'd come here and just like, Brandon, can I have some? Oh yeah, sure. Have as I would dog that.
It's like a quiche.
Exactly.
If you think about it,
Quiche.
it's like a quiche.
It's a quiche.
It's
but,
like a quiche.
but better. But better.
Thank you, bro.
No, your Kika's cooking is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Put anyone's stamp of approval on that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, out of all her dishes, I would not take her sancocho. So I believe you when you say that Dominican sancocho
Nah,
is
I'm
better.
joking. Honestly, I'm not a big sancocho person.
Are you still nursing that drink
I
over
am
there?
still nursing it.
Here, cheers. Let's take a little
But if I
sippy
have
sip.
to be honest, all I had today was 4 eggs and a bowl of Frosted Flakes.
You don't got. I mean, you start tomorrow. You said, or the day
Summer
after.
school. Yeah, I start tomorrow.
Fucking shit. So you got to get an early night. But I was gonna say,
No,
if you
no,
want, we could go get food or something.
No,
after
no, I don't have to get an early night. No.
let's go
It's
get some
summer.
food
I don't.
after.
I don't live by those rules. That
We
is.
go to where I said.
Yeah, she wants to go to. Yeah, we'll do that.
What's
we'll
that?
do that after this podcast. We're gonna go pay some. We're gonna go see some friends. Shout out D. She. We're gonna go to Nyack.
Oh,
they
where
have really
Nyack?
good wings. What is it called?
OVI, Old Village.
OVI, yeah, they have the best chicken curry in OVI.
Oh yeah, the chicken curry. Everyone loves.
We're out.
It.
All right, there we go.
OVI.
So OVI, here we come.
Also, I'm sorry. The quick point, and Kata, you could get in the frame here, okay?
Come in.
Because
I don't even know how I look.
so a couple of things. You look
Shut your
great.
dumb ass up.
So people say Kata looks more
Picture.
Latina and Brandon looks more Asian.
Yeah.
I think you look more like your mother. You put up a Be Real the other day.
You thought it was my mom?
No, you got. I pulled it up with Emma, and me and Emma and I were like, "Oh my God, she looks identical to your mother."
Really?
Yeah, and you know how the Latina genes is like, they don't age.
But I mean,
they look like
it
sisters,
makes sense
bro.
though. It makes sense because look, if you think about it, right? What is a woman? Is oh Jesus Christ? Well, this is even okay. So I'm not trying to.
Was I
Whatever.
at
You
work?
get what?
Was I at
So a
work?
female is what XX? No, yeah, XX. A male is XY.
Yeah.
It obviously makes sense because I'm a dude that I get the Y from my dad, which means I resemble more. There's like
You're
more
always
of,
gonna get a Y from the dad, but then you also get an X from your mom.
or
Is that
you
how
could get it
works,
from your
though?
dad.
But I've done a
You
20.
sure?
I've
Oh, yeah,
done
I
a
guess that would be
23
100%
and
your
me.
dad. Yeah.
My composition is it makes no sense. The math. It's gonna be embarrassing.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm doing the math. Yeah, no, I think it does. Maybe it doesn't. Okay.
Wait, 23 mean you mean like what? Like
23
you are
me-
what you break
so
down
I
as?
spit in a tube, send it out.
Yeah.
Broke down right, and they said I have 49.7% of my mother's genetic composition. 49.7, and then 49.3 of my father.
Oh, that's going into like.
Does that check out, bro? No, it doesn't.
No, it
That's
doesn't.
like 99%.
It
The
does- yeah, it
1%,
doesn't make
I don't
sense.
know.
But
Reptilian.
I don't think those tests can be 100% accurate. They're like probably 99.9%
I agree.
accurate.
But, okay. So now that we're on the topic, I said the same thing. Man, those stupid you spit into a vial. How are they going to know where you came from,
Yeah,
right? Okay. Couple of things. So I did 2 things. I did the ethnic background, and I did the scientific, right? So we'll start with the ethnic. The ethnic part, it has down to the county of where my family's from in Ireland, where my family's from in Puerto Rico, where my family's from in the Dominican Republic. They even know that they touched down in Havana, Cuba for
For the fucking splash of Cuban that I was talking about
a
earlier.
little bit. And we joke around. My mom's like gypsies. They just
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like the tour de world. They were
Tour de the
Magellan.
Caribbeans?
They were the modern day Magellans.
Yeah.
They just went around the globe. So they have all that down to the county, and it'll give like, there is a 9 or 80% chance that your family is from this county, and then there's 7 whatever, blah blah blah, breaks down of 100%. They have it spot on from spit.
How do they know that?
It's crazy.
How do they know that though?
So that's how I know. Okay, this thing's pretty accurate. The other thing is the scientific part. Okay, you probably have. There is a 79% chance you have light brown hair. There, you probably can't see it. My beard. There's a reason why I have a beard, because people say I have a Peter Griffin chin. I have a cleft chin. There is a 99.9% chance you have a cleft chin. True.
So they're predicting what you look like based off of
Dimples. They could tell you if you have a gluten allergy. They could tell you if you are more likely to type 2 diabetes.
which you don't.
They could tell you if you're more susceptible to other ailments, right? So they gave you the entire list. It's a little freaky because I don't like hearing that. I don't like hearing that. It's good to know because type 2 diabetes does run in my mom's family, right? So they give you that entire breakdown and it checks every box. It's freaky. Freaky.
I don't want to know.
You should, because, okay, so naturally, just being Hispanic, there's mestizo blood. Mestizo blood meaning that you are part Caucasian from Spain.
Yeah.
You are part Native American. So, for example, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Taino. Now, with Colombia, I don't know the
what would that
exact
be?
Native American group there. But
Look it up on your phone,
I'm
Jamie.
sure
Young Jamie.
Jamie. I'm sure it varies. And then the other thing is slave. African blood.
Oh, for real?
Mestizos.
In the
So 90% of I don't know the exact number. A certain percent but a very high percent of Hispanics
have
what it or classified as mestizo. You know how, like, it's kind of like how we were just talking about, like, so I watched the video and it's the point of the video was Latino. Okay, well, Latino means everyone including Brazil.
yes.
Every Hispanic country in the Western Hemisphere, not including Spain. Spain is not Latino,
Yeah.
but that also encompasses Brazil.
Portuguese speaking,
Then you have Hispanic,
which is not Brazil because they speak
which
Portuguese.
is not Brazil, but I think that also includes Spain. Then you have Spanish, which people are like, oh, that guy's Spanish, but in reality, that's
It's
just from Spain.
Yeah.
So what the point of the video was that if you actually want to be mathematically correct and give Spanish speaking people the correct, thanks for fixing my mic, bro,
No, you sound good. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, just
the correct tag, it would be mestizos, because most Hispanics are those three, that 3 combination. So
Okay.
I suggest you do that just to see. Like, for example, 17% sub-Saharan African.
you.
17%. 60
What is sub-Saharan Africa?
below the Sahara. So I think specifically it was Western. So it was like from Ghana. Like, my family lived in Ghana.
So look, I don't mean to derail your whole argument here, but I couldn't help but have a dark thought or like a. Do you think there's a fucking correlation here? Okay, this is gonna get real. This is gonna get real. Not maybe not PC, but whatever. What outside of black people? What seems to be? I can't speak on this obviously because I'm not black. But what seems to be like from your naked eye, what you've seen culturally, whatever in New York City? If a black person, right, were to hear this person say the N-word, not like obviously hard R, but like in slang, that they're like, oh, that passes. Yeah, like they don't blink twice with that. What are they usually most of the time?
Oh, Hispanic.
Do you think that's why there's a correlation? That a lot of, I mean, I know this is known that a lot of like Hispanics, like Cubans, like Yoel Romero, he's Cuban, you know, obviously, you know, but there's no fucking way. If you do a 23andMe on him, he definitely has like black in him. There's a lot of Dominicans, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans, there's even a lot of Colombians. Colombians are very genetically diverse.
Yes.
Where they're black, what do they call Afro Latinos?
Yeah, there's Afro Latinos and then like from the colonizer Latinos.
Yes. And then there's also native Latinos.
There's native
But
Latinos.
most, even the ones that visually look more Caucasian or look more like native or look more African, for the most part, they have a mix of both. So you know, like like for example, if you take like your mother is like tan, right? Mm-hmm. Like that speaks of, oh yeah, that means that she was most likely the 3.
So actually, look. So this is no funny shit, bro. There's like a running joke in my family. So my grandfather Kiko is one of 12 siblings. 12. I mean, you know, back in the day, they shit out kids. I don't know how.
I'm gonna one up you. My grandmother, Dominican grandmother, was one of 23.
23?
23.
When she was talking about 23 and me,
and
she
me.
meant 23 other siblings and me, bro. What the fuck? 23?
But yeah, I don't want to steal your rank. Continue,
with the same mother? I mean, obviously, yes.
No. Same father.
Okay. But
machismo.
Yeah, fucking womanizer. But that's because not to get too graphic.
Two different women. But even then,
I don't think a vagina could survive 23 births. Like I'm talking about strictly biomechanically. I don't think there's. I mean, the vagina's a miracle; it could stretch or whatever the fuck. But like 23 births. Think about that.
Yeah. So I think
it takes 9 months, 23 fucking kids. That's like give or take, like what is that? Maybe 18 years.
You would have to start when you're 16 and
then go for 18 years every fucking year. Poop out a baby every fucking year for 18 years. That's insane.
Of vaginal births from one woman is 69 children, because that includes 16 pair of twins, 7 sets of triplets, and 4 sets of quadruplets.
So
total of 27 births between 1725 and 1765.
I know for a fact by her fucking 4th quadruplet, she was like, "All right, just give me a coffee, I'll be fine." She's just her shit's just
of course.
She's just popping them out like nothing, bro. Like Orbeez. They coming out like Orbeez, dog. No, but like.
So continue about your Kiko. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So my Kiko's one of 12. That's one of 23. That's insane. I can't believe that. So Kiko's one of 12. Literally cheaper by the dozen, and literally directly half. 6 of those siblings, and Kiko's one of them, came out looking more Spaniard. Because, okay, so I need to point out, my great-grandfather, my Kiko's father, was very Caucasian, or you're saying mestizo, is that from?
Well, Caucasian, probably that meaning, if he was more Caucasian looking, then probably he had more Spanish.
Yeah, he had more
Spain.
conquistador in him.
Yes.
He had blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, of course.
6 foot taller. His mother, 4'11", straight, thick as fuck, black hair, like dark, native as fuck. Like she looked like an Aztec, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Them two obviously got married, had children, exactly half and half split. 6 of them came out looking like more lighter featured, more white looking, and then the other 6 came out more darker, shorter, whatever the fuck like that. Kiko's one of those, but then you look at my mom and my uncle. My uncle is Andres, way darker than my mom. Yeah. My mom's way lighter than my.
Always in Florida though.
Yeah, but even if you look at like childhood pictures, maybe environment. I mean, obviously environment with like melanin or whatever in your skin is gonna have something to do with it because the sun. But I'm saying like just from a genetic standpoint, I think my mom is a little lighter than my uncle, right? So that is to say, there is what you're talking about. There in my Colombian side, I know for a fact because my great grandmother was I can't say 100% native because I don't know for certain.
Yeah.
But she was native.
So maybe I know that, for example, South American, right? And mestizo also, I guess that would be that would apply to Brazil because I think Brazil, out of all the Western countries, they had by far the most number of slaves come pouring into their country. But I know that, for example, like Peru. Mm-hmm. Peru has the lowest percentage of, I want to say, slave and Spanish. So let me just rephrase that. Peru has the highest percentage of native blood.
That makes sense.
Peruvians.
Because the mountains. Conquistadors are like, I don't want to fucking go there. And like, it's hard to establish,
exactly.
pivotal. I'll throw that picture up now too.
That's great.
Here, you're going to see it right here.
There's a bunch of pictures that if you want to look at them.
So,
no, I'll put that up there. What were you saying, Tom? My bad.
And then if you look at like Uruguay and Argentina, right? So they tend to be more. Well, Argentina tends to be more.
They definitely have German.
Little German.
Because
German.
Hitler might have fucking escaped there during World War II. But whatever, we don't. Yeah.
And Spanish. So it all varies, but that's why. Even if you were like, oh, like I just know I'm 100% Puerto Rican or I'm 100% Colombian. Now you have it different because God knows where your family came from that you are unaware of.
On both sides.
But yeah, on both sides. But that's a crazy thing is that and they have it by generations. So I know that, for example, my family.
Wait, they in 23andMe?
Yes. So I know, for example, my family, as late of possibly the 1600s, they were in Western Africa. So like, it's long ago, sure, but like 16 and even I believe it's 1650s to
I mean, that's only
possibly 70s.
400 years ago.
Right.
And if you
like,
break it
just
down by
looking
people,
at me,
it's 4 people ago.
You would never
People
know.
live till 100.
Right. But like, for example, like my brother and my mother have thicker hair. And that tends to be more common in...
You don't got to move. Don't worry. You just keep doing your thing.
Right, in African nations, right?
That's crazy.
Or people of African descent. So it really is cool. Like, I always knew I was, 25 this, 25 that, 50 that. But then after I got that, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I really am more of a melting pot than I actually thought I was.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And that's why, listen, people are going to say, oh, come on, man. That's the government's getting this and that and all the information. Listen, I just went to Dominican Republic. I just did a flight. They did facial recognition. We all have cell phones. We all have TikTok.
Yeah, you don't know what the fuck they have.
We forfeited our rights long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm fingerprinted by the state of New York. Like, they have my information. I'm very boring. So, and if you hack into
do with that what you will.
if you hack into my bank account, you're gonna be very disappointed. You might actually Venmo me some additional money.
Don't say that.
You might Venmo me some additional money.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
But point is, you have to do that.
I think I kind of want to do that now. I'm not gonna lie.
So what I'll do for you is
give me the referral code.
I will give you. Well, I can do a referral code, or I'll get it to you. I'll get it on Amazon tonight when we're eating some nice curry chicken at OVI.
OVI.
Okay. And I'll get you the 23andMe, and if you want to do it as well. But the good thing is probably only one of you guys have to do it because it's uniform.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So my brother.
My mom did it.
Oh, she did?
Oh.
Yeah, she got a lot of native stuff from South.
Yeah, but we're not gonna get the total picture because then it doesn't
Yeah,
take into
but you
account
guys,
the Asian
you
side.
have coming from opposite ends of the world. That would be so interesting.
It makes sense though too that like people think I'm Filipino because of the fact that Latin plus
That's literally what.
that's what the Philippines
And
are.
there's also an American influence in the Philippines as well.
Oh, like during the war.
Yeah, so for example, a lot of Filipinos have like, there's no American last name, but they might have like a
Smith.
more European
Yeah.
name. So Philippines is also a very interesting, like very mixed area. But there's certain areas of the world, U.S. obviously being like the prime area where the people just mix and mix and mix. I'm so interested to see, once we're very old in our 80s and 90s.
What people look like?
Yeah, it's gonna be, like I'm thinking for like my own sake. Okay, I marry Emma, have kids, Irish, right? Okay, that pretty much doesn't really change that much. There's more Irish in the family. But let's say like if we have kids and that person then meets someone who is Colombian, Chinese, and African American, they meet, like, what the hell is that person going to look like?
I don't. Yeah. that's
Selfishly speaking, always wanted you. I love Hannah. Hannah's a keeper. But so it really lies on you, Kata. If you met someone who was half Caucasian, half African American,
You get all the major.
you would get like a quarter white, a quarter Asian, a quarter Hispanic, and a quarter black. What would that person look like?
That's every.
But you're gonna start seeing people that look like that
Yeah.
here in the United States that are just gonna be so mixed that eventually it's just gonna be like it's just too the list is just way too long.
Yeah.
And then, so what I think and what I've seen is that like the human being in 2050 will look something like this, and it's like a little bit darker than what I am now, like darker hair, like hazelish eyes.
You saw the what AI or something like doctors figured out what they're predicting humans to look like because of all like the interracial.
Yes, and it's just, especially here in the U.S., it's just gonna be like
it's gonna be
so,
crazy.
so crazy, and it's cool. It's gonna be so cool to live through.
Yeah, I like that.
It's great.
I was gonna ask you a question. Like, do you ever play into, because we were talking about like identity crisis and all that stuff. Do you ever play into one of your side? Because everyone always asks like, what do you identify with more? That's always a fucking trigger question. Not trigger question, but it's always like, well, it used to be like a thing that bothered me.
What are you? It's always interesting because I'm like, you could phrase that better. But
I always ask people what they are.
No, but like you can be like,
Did-
oh,
did-
what's your
did-
background, blah blah blah. But then I always. Like
What's
to
your
be like,
background? But that sounds like what do you like, go to school for? I just cut through the bullshit. I'm like, what are you? Okay, look, you know what I meant. Just tell me where you're fucking.
Okay, do I identify with one more than the other?
So no, I'm not asking you
Okay.
that question.
Mm-hmm.
The question I want to ask you is, because this is how I see it, right? I play it based on my circumstances. So if I'm with a shit ton of fucking Asian people, I'm fucking Asian. If I'm with a shit ton of fucking Latin people, I'm Latin. But then, yeah, exactly. But then again, like there was like in college, I would always be called like the Asian clique that I ran with in business school that we would take tests with. And all, those motherfuckers were great to study with. They were on top of their shit. Not saying that there wasn't any Latinos in the business school. Obviously there were, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't really friends with too many of them.
You gravitated more towards the Asian.
Yeah, well, just strictly numbers wise, it was mostly white and then like it was mostly white, and then there were like little populations of like Asian transfer students, whatever. So I found myself with a lot of like full-blooded Korean, Chinese, blah 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 blah. And when I was with them, I would be like, yeah, I fucking know boba. I know like I would talk about Asian food or whatever, but they'd be like, oh, like fucking halfy over here speaking. They'd be like I'm a halfy. And I've told this story I think on the podcast before, but one of my best moments of like, oh, that was so fucking satisfying, because I guess this is like kind of tying into like identity issues. What do Asians, obviously this is an open, I'm asking you the question, so just give your honest answer. What are Asians like best known for? Stereotypically, what's like an Asian stereotype?
I would say their work ethic at school.
Okay, so education, scholastically, they take a lot of pride in being good students, all that shit, right? Which comes with good grades, good test performances. We were in this fucking accounting class in college, in business school, and these were bigger classes, probably like 40 something kids, and all the fucking Asian kids were packed into this one class for whatever reason, and the professor was like Chinese, but like from China. She spoke with an accent. I love this woman to death. She was, to this day, one of the best professors I've had.
Was it
what?
Yi Hui?
No, it wasn't Yi Hui.
Yeah, okay.
She was what was she? She was financial something, but she wasn't accounting.
Not Yi Hui, okay.
Yeah, so she was another professor. So this professor, we had three tests that mattered the entire year. There were quizzes here and there that maybe impacted like what your final score was, but the three tests were like 2 midterms and a final. And the first midterm rolls around, and people were floored by how hard it was. And I remember she warned us. She was like, don't joke. Like, she was like, don't, like, this is really going to test you. Like, we're not here to joke around or whatever. So I studied, and I studied with that Asian clique. And the fucking scores come back. And before she hands out the fucking papers, she's like, guys, I'm thoroughly, and she's from China, so she's speaking this with an accent, but I won't bother to do that accent. And she was like, guys, I'm thoroughly disappointed in this class's performance. She was like, the class average was like a 72. I expected better from you guys. You guys need to like go home and hit the textbooks, whatever. There were only 3 kids that scored in the A range. She was like, she because she's fucking Asian. She don't give a shit. She's like, no, like this is meant to, kind of stoke the fire in you guys.
Light a fire in
She pointed to 2 other kids, and then she goes, and Brandon. And she fucking gives me my test score, and it's a 97. And I'm like, oh shit. I look over at the Asian homies who's like halfy. I'm like, what'd you get? They're like 82, 78. And I'm like, who's the fucking full Asian now, bitch? I was like, who's the full Asian now that I got a better... And it's math. It's math. Not even like,
man.
Not English or something. It's fucking math. Mic drop. I was like, that's right. That was the one satisfying moment. So I guess, sorry, this is like a long-winded story / question. Do you ever play into your background depending... Like, you're like a chameleon. You change based off of your environment. So if you're with a shit ton of Irish people, you're like, I fucking know that county. I know this food, blah, blah, blah. Or if you're with Dominicans, you're like, hey, look, because I know for a fact, I know you do this a little bit with my Kika. Every time he sees Kika,
I'm going to say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
¿Cómo está? ¿Todo bien?
Yeah, exactly. Every time. Every time you like greet her in Spanish, you speak to her in Spanish. So that's what I'm saying. Like, do you do that with, like, do you play to your cards and kind of like change?
Yeah, I'll give you stories.
Go ahead. Lay it on me.
All right. So like with Emma's family, there's a song called the N17, and that gets me hype. I like it more than Emma. I'm like, who's the real Irish person here?
And so is it from an Irish band or something?
Yeah, the Saw Doctors.
Okay.
I
So
wish I was on the N. I'm not gonna sing it, but like I'll pour my heart into that. Mm-hmm. Or there's another song called the Green and Red and Mayo, which part of my family's from.
Did you just say the green, the red, and the mayo?
The Green and Red of Mayo. Mayo is a county. Green and red are the colors of those counties. So like each county has like 2 colors.
Okay.
So for example, Sligo, which Emma's family's from, black and white. Roscommon, I I don't know where it's
Is this like flags you're
Kerry
talking
is
about?
green and red.
Or like sigils? What do you mean
each
colors?
Colors like their county flag. Has
Okay.
Usually
Gotcha.
two colors.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's like the green and red at Mayo, right?
Okay.
I love that. I love those like Irish song and I'll sing my heart out, and like they love that because like to them I'm like, hey, ¿cómo está? ¿Todo bien?"
Yeah.
Right? So like when they see me, they're like, oh, like that's so cool, like you know, this and that. Then like with the people I work with, like my squad is like the Dominican crew, baseball, like some of them are like dominoes, hookah, like I don't do that stuff, but like that's like my little niche at work, and like and same with like my grandparent, like I'll be very prideful of that. Excuse me. Then like if I'm with Mike, Mike's like 100% Puerto Rican, like I'll talk to them about like Puerto Rican foods, or we went to the marathon. And there were, people running. They have like the Puerto Rican flags. I was like, "Vamos Boricua, let's go, let's go."
Yeah.
So like stuff like that. So yes, like depend. Like do I? Sometimes it just naturally happens, but yeah, I would say like when it's convenient too. For example, for jobs, what I started doing, or when I hyphenate my name,
Oh shit.
Feliz Cardi. I want people to know.
That's smart as fuck. We gotta start doing that.
I should have done that for college.
Fuck,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, actually, no.
Well, affirmative action's over, but like,
Also, but my first name and last name, it worked.
Catalina. Oh yeah, because you have the mix.
I have a fucking Irish first name.
Brand. Yeah, right. So depending on who I'm with, I might amp it up a little bit, and then it's weird. Like sometimes I'm just with like people that are just like white, and then like I'll, sweet home.
Yeah.
So
isn't that beautiful though? Because think about it. You and I faced a lot of shit for like. Look, when I was young, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for you, but when I was younger, and people would say like, oh, you're not what? You're not full. You're not Latin. No, your fucking mom's. No fucking way. Oh, say something in Spanish, some shit like that.
Yeah.
That would always get under my skin when I was younger. But then as I've gotten older, I'm like, motherfucker, I'm gonna play to my cards. Like if some person's interviewing me and I know that they're from like they're Latin or Latina or Latino, bro, I've literally in the past during interviews busted out like, oh yeah, like I'll mention it under there like, what the fuck did you just say? And I'm like, yeah, like I can speak Spanish, and they're like, no way. And then I speak a little Spanish, and they're like, they're floored because they don't encounter that on an everyday basis.
of course.
So it's like now that like what doesn't kill you make you stronger. When you were younger, it's like, oh, they don't accept me. But now it's like, fuck that, bro. Like I got a superpower where it's like, you don't like I'm mixed. You don't know, and I'm gonna play to my cards like at the best opportune moment.
And I stand by this. This is not a controversial take. This is a fact. People that are mixed are better looking than those that are not mixed. I will stand by that. Well,
I mean,
that's
okay. Look at the royal family. Look at the royal family.
Look, okay. All I'm saying is look at dental records. If you stay within one area,
it's gonna be fucked up.
Yeah, you're gonna be east,
we talking
west,
about
north, south.
Hee-haw, donkey teeth, fucking bad.
People that are mixed are the most beautiful people, and not to mention, like if you look at like the pageants,
it's a lot of them are mixed.
Usually they come from Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, right? Mexico. Why? Because people from those countries are naturally mixed.
Yeah,
it's a fact. Obviously, I'm not saying that if you're 100% of something, you are ugly. Obviously not. I think the most beautiful person in the world happens to be someone that is 100% Irish.
And
so don't get mad at me. Okay?
And they're also more like genetically less predisposed to certain, like with more genetic diversity, you kind of gain. It's like in dogs, mutts are healthier than purebreds.
Yeah,
it's the same shit with humans, probably. I would assume.
It is.
Well, even if you look at certain allergies or certain diseases, so sickle cell is mainly in those that are African American, right? So I think in Africa, for whatever reason, I'm not the bio major, so don't.
Malaria.
Okay.
Like
and then for example, people that have gluten allergies tend to be mostly Northwestern Europe or Southern Europe.
And peanut allergies. Throw peanut allergies in there too. I've never met. This is not an towards anyone, but I've never met like a fucking minority, speaking in the U.S., like any person of color that has a peanut allergy.
my roommate had a peanut allergy.
Oh, really?
And her brother and like her family.
Sonia?
Elena.
So that's interesting because we have a peanut allergy, but I don't know.
You have a peanut allergy?
Not me, but like my siblings. Oh yeah, two of my 4 siblings have a severe peanut allergy. I was never able to have peanut butter. And
Wait. Hold on. Is this because okay? So you know, there's a theory that's like, if you're not breastfed when you're a baby or an infant, you're more likely to develop allergies.
Oh, absolutely. So
It's okay, so it's a fact.
So they say you should have peanut butter during your pregnancy. And even when the child is young, to give them a little bit of peanut butter. Because sometimes they could outgrow it.
Okay, so see.
Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
no, it makes sense.
But
it makes sense.
So during myself and Kevin's pregnancy, my mom had a weird, because you have pregnancy
cravings. Yeah.
She wanted Reese's peanut butter cups all the time.
And does Kevin have a peanut allergy?
Nope.
During Christy
and John would throw up even just thinking about peanuts.
That's crazy.
So it definitely has something to do with it.
That's so crazy.
My sister's a beef allergy. She's not even allergic to beef. She's allergic to the nitrates in beef. Damn. So she can't have burgers.
Ever?
Never.
What happens
maybe
if she
once
eats red meat then? Like,
she'll flare up and then has to get the injection.
Are you serious?
Yep.
An EpiPen for fucking beef?
Beef, yep. Everyone,
you don't have any allergies though.
No.
Does Kevin?
No.
Isn't someone in your family allergic to avocados?
No one in my family is allergic to avocados.
Who is that then?
So
who am I thinking of?
They're allergic. 3 of the 6 are allergic to dogs and cats. Not 3. Myself, my dad, and Kevin are not allergic to anything. My mom is allergic to shellfish. And that was developed actually after pregnancy. So she can have shrimp.
Weird.
Yeah, so there's just so many allergies.
Bro, allergies are so weird. Like, how does your mom go her entire life before pregnancy?
She loves shrimp cocktail.
And then all of a sudden, just like that.
So it's funny. So when my sister, my brother, her, and Emma are around, so gluten-free, peanut-free, shrimp-free,
or all shellfish,
beef-free.
So you what are you eating? Boiled chicken?
Guess what I ate my entire life? Chicken, this, chicken that, chicken this. But naturally, Spanish food is very
chicken forward, poultry. Yeah,
yes, rice. Yeah. Like, most people aren't really allergic to that.
Is there a rice allergy? You gotta be a pussy beyond pussies to be allergic to rice. I'm sorry, most of the fucking world eats rice. Like, if you're allergic to rice, you're shit out of luck.
That's just sad.
Food allergy just seems horrible because like you can't experience certain foods.
I feel like you could. I feel like you can look at a person and tell if they have a food allergy. For example, like you could look at me. It doesn't really correlate with you because you don't have food allergies and you're in good shape. But yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I'm chubby. I don't got no food allergies, and it's damn. I be eating peanut butter, motherfucking everything. Put it on my plate.
Yeah, sometimes I think I'm like, hey, you know what? It probably would be convenient to have at least one allergy. For bread, bread's my weakness.
I guess
gluten-free bread is okay. So people that have that allergy are just like, yeah, whatever. I'd rather eat no bread.
But it's not as good as full gluten. Is it 8:00 already? Yeah. Sorry, that's my diabetic dog's food alarm. Whatever, it's a budget production.
That's all I got for you, bro.
What do you mean? With like the allergy stuff?
Yeah, I mean just for this podcast. If you want to keep on going, we can.
Let me look at the time.
We've been talking for a while. I feel like
it's been an hour and 28.
Hour and 20 minutes. Listen, I don't want you to
talk about the baseball shit next time.
Listen, we'll have plenty of opportunities for podcasts. I will eventually this summer go down to the BK, the 917 or 718. That confuses me.
I don't know the area code.
I think 718 is cell phones and 917 I think is like landlines. And then there's 347.
11201, the zip code. That's all I'm saying.
I just gave the zip code.
That's fine. 11201. That's a big area. It's like millions of people in fucking Brooklyn. Fuck it.
What's that?
The zip code.
Oh, zip code. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, you know the outro, right? Do you know the outro?
Put me on the spot.
Snap and point up. You've done it before.
Oh, I have?
You're on record of doing it before.
All right, here we go.
The outro music. But I'll tell you, you'll see it in a second. But what I do want to say is thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Bro, amazing episode. We talked about some great stuff today. Like, subscribe. Yeah. I'm gonna put your Instagram handle in the bio if you don't mind, or in the description of the video if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Be sure to do all that social media bullshit. Like, subscribe, share it if you're feeling a little extra special. If you made it to the end of the episode, thank you so much for watching all the way. I really appreciate that interaction and engagement. Tom, thank you so much for coming today.
I do have one thing. I don't know if anyone has ever said this. The amount of work this guy puts into this damn podcast is insane. He works a job. He has 2 cats now.
Two
This
cats.
man's got to pay rent. Even if you see this video somewhere, just subscribe. It's not going to hurt you. It can help him, but just subscribe.
Bro. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
A lot of great episodes, a lot of great content. And one really thing that I'd like to point out is your interviewing skills and just your podcast skills have improved tremendously since the first one. And it's we're in the 50s right now for episodes, so there's so many great things that happen. And here's a good thing. Silver lining, right? It's either you blow up and this is what you do for a living and you love what you do. Or you continue to do it, and when you get older, you'll have so much content and great stories. So when your child or your grandchild asks you, "Oh, how was my family member like?" You'll just show them that episode, and that is something that is so special just off this podcast. And this is gonna sound corny. Say what you want, but family. We're talking about Latino culture, and just family in general. Okay, right? Your family will appreciate that so much that outweighs any monetary benefits that this podcast might yield.
Yeah, no,
100%.
I mean, to be honest, the last point I'll make here is just that was the reason. You remember the lunch table in high school? That was honestly like the birthplace. Once I discovered what podcasting was, the whole reason why I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I've invested money. I mean, these things obviously, they're not going to break the bank, but they're not cheap either. And the reason I went out and bought all this stuff or whatever is because this is something that means a lot to me. It's something I'm very passionate about, and it's something that keeps me grounded. And it's also just a really good way of like having meaningful conversations with people I love, and then also in the future just get to know other people. If there's someone who I don't know that well comes on the podcast, it's a good way to get to know the person.
And 20 years from now, we'll listen to this and we'll probably tear up.
I still go back and watch episodes, and I'm like, that was. You guys know you're coming out in the background, right?
That's all right. That's your That's your great
Loud
family
ass
that we're talking about. That's the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
Which side of the family was making all that noise?
The Latin
There you go.
Latinos, but Chinese people are loud as fuck too. You go to a
that's
dim
true.
sum house, more oil. They'll be like fucking screaming and all that shit. But yeah, anyways, bro, thank you for coming on.
All right, what's the
It was a great
outro?
episode.
Tell me again.
Yeah, like, subscribe, do all that social media bullshit. Until next time, cue the outro music. There we go. Yep. Wait, cue the outro music. There we go.
Oh man, we weren't in sync. One more time. Cue the outro music.
There we
go. All right.
There we go. That was good. One
Good
more.
enough.
All right, cue the outro music. There we go. That was
Perfect.
perfectly
All right,
in sync.
bro.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having me,
bro. Yep. Peace out, guys. Deuces. Till next time.